Hello everybody and welcome to a video about me, a returning player, getting back to Hearthstone and looking at all these decks and saying, which one should I play and how am I going to get to Legend? I want to get to Legend to be able to get, the really good chest with, 5 packs, a bunch of random rares and an epic. It's also just a really cool, achievement personally. So how should I do it? Well, you're in luck. Today I'm going to be going over the decks and strategies that I was using to be able to get to Legend as a returning player, and a lot of these decks are going to be fairly budget, so anyone will be able to use them. The first one that I was using was Libram Paladin. This had been recently nerfed when I picked up Hearthstone, and I was not deterred. I was really excited that Librams were playable again, and one look at 2 of the cards, Libram of Divinity and Sunsapper Lunessa, said, this deck is going to be good no matter what. The fact that Sunsapper Lunessa just allows you to double your Libram of Divinities, turning a single copy into 2 copies and +6/+6 on a minion is not only insane on its own, but if you have 2 copies of Libram of Divinity, you now have +12/+12, and on your next turn, you also have +12/+12, but 4 copies. If that Sunsapper Lunessa is able to somehow live, you have a 27/26 Chill Blade champion ready to kill your opponent. So essentially the main point of this deck is that we want to discount the price of our Librams as much as possible using Eldor Attendant, good old Interstellar Star Slicer, so then we can play Libram of Clarity, Libram of Divinity, and Wisdom really cheap, so we can kill our opponent. We have an Instrument Tech to search the weapon, we have Interstellar Researcher to search the Librams, we have Ethereal Oracle to search literally anything, we have Dragonscale Armaments to search any holy spell, any spell rather, and we have Knight of Atonement to search another spell as well. Crystology searches minions, including Knight of Atonement and Eldor Attendant. So the deck really has a good way of just tutoring out a bunch of cards, being able to fill your early game with all these setup cards, and then when you're in your mid game, you can slap down a Sunsapper Lunessa, or maybe even just Cold Feet Rebuke, have a good turn to be able to have a board ready, then put your good old Sunsapper Lunessa down and absolutely destroy your opponent with light ray into, Rebuke, Cold Feet. Next turn you put down your Sunsapper Lunessa, however much damage you've already done, plus, 2 8/8s on the field attacking your opponent. It's so much damage. And yeah, this deck has a lot of good ability to just spew out minions. There's even another minion you can play, which is from the Schollomancy set, which is a 6 mana 4/5 Divine Shield Taunt. Costs 1 less for every single spell you cast on a minion, which obviously you can tell from a deck like this with Libram of Wisdoms and Libram of Divinities, those go down and cost very quickly. Myrmidon is also a card I really want to get golden because you only play 1 of it, but a 3 mana 3/4 that just says draw 12 cards is really damn good. This deck is super cool, super interesting, and just really fun overall. It does have a few losing matchups, notably decks that maybe a Shudderwocky Shaman, or the good old Painful as always. Quest Warlock and Quest Demon Hunter can give this deck a bit of trouble. Decks that can high roll really crazily, obviously. One of the predominant fears of this deck is going against the high roll Shaman deck, where you play Muck Murker on turn 4, it summons a 4/12, it kills a 4/12 Mega Wind Fury Lifesteal, it attacks 2 minions, you reincarnate it, attacks the board, and you just aren't able to set up a board, and then it doesn't matter how good your spells and stuff are because you can't get a board. Things like that are the weakness of this deck. But this deck can easily clear things like Imbue Mage. That's exactly why we have Eater of Secrets. Hostage Mage, it kills Mage pretty easily. It kills a lot of, it doesn't do well against aggressive decks either, but anything that's like mid-rangey or above, it usually clears it out. So there is that to kind of consider. Like if you're going against a lot of Shadow Priest, maybe don't run this deck, but if you're going against a lot of Imbue Mage, and maybe even that new Taunt Dragon Druid, this could be a really strong deck to go against that, because you can make their cards just cost a lot more with Cold Feet for a turn, and then just be able to guarantee the win on the following turn. Yeah, so that was the first deck I really ran, and then I found a new deck. It was really cool, really cheap. It was Whispers of Kel'Thuzad, and this is what I played from like gold to platinum pretty much. This deck is really, really cool. I love the new Imbue cards. I even bought the bundle for Hamul. Hamul easily had the best bundle, because you got the 2 generic cards and Hamul, so cool. But enough about that. This card right here, Reckless Apprentice, is the heart and soul of the deck. It should be nerfed, it should be gotten rid of, it should be taken out back. But as long as it isn't out back, it is front and center. Easily the best card of the deck. If your opponent sets up any board, even if your Imbue is at 3, like if your hero power says like deal 3 damage, summon 1 Wisp, doesn't matter. Reckless Apprentice plus Sing-Along Buddy, they have 7 minions on field, that's 48 damage. Easily enough to kill them immediately. And that's the reason why this deck is so strong. Obviously, this version of the deck is probably not what you would want to play. I think the Brand Bronzebeard can be cut. I think Hollow Technician can go to 1. Maybe play another Ice Block and then also run a copy of Rewind. So then you can rewind your copy of Ice Block so then you can cast it again. Other than that though, I think this is a very, very solid and cool kind of like archetype. It's really nice to see cards from Standard be able to make their way into Wild and actually find their own footing. Because it doesn't happen too much, but with like Mech Rogue being like the Titans kind of decks like 2 years ago, and then in this year we have immediately, like first set of this year, we have this new like archetypal idea of Imbue for Mage, and a lot of other decks, but Mage's one specifically, just being able to win games with it is so amazing to see. I love it when new archetypes and can liven up Wild, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so the entire point is that your hero power becomes pretty much Arcane Missiles, and you cast it a bunch of times. You just consistently, every turn, brain dead, hit button, win game. I will say that there is actually a little bit of thinking with this deck, because your opponent is obviously going to be trying to tech against you a lot of the time. So I would say try to run 2 Ice Blocks so then you can cast 1, maybe they Eater of Secrets or something early, and then you can cast the second one, and then maybe that gets procced, and then you can rewind for the 3rd one because God forbid you just die once. Or twice even. But yeah, just Objection, being able to destroy minions without anything happening is awesome, especially Mad Scientist. I will say that if you have the space, maybe putting in 1 copy of Counterspell could also be really, really useful, because they won't really be suspecting it. I do think that honestly Secret Mage is probably still playable nowadays. People are just not really willing to play it because but yeah. So this is a really fun and interesting deck. It feels really funny when you're playing it. When you're playing against it, it feels god awful. But yeah, like the amount of times where you just hit button, go face, win game, and it's hilarious. Or the high rolls with Hollow Technician, being able to just kill a board of like 20/20s and be like, well. I will say that this deck did get me a legitimate hate message. So if you are going to play Whispers of Kel'Thuzad, do make sure to not accept friend requests because you will be called slurs. But that is that deck, and that was able to help me get into good old Platinum. The next 2 decks are decks that I did play but didn't really amount to too much success. The first one was Mech Rogue. This is one of my favorite decks to play right now. Easily one of my most exciting decks to play. It's just so fun. Like, there's nothing about this deck that isn't. I crafted 2 drone deconstructor and 2 from the scrap heap golden, just so I could see my happy little magnetic boys golden. Like, my lord, they're adorable. But yeah, so essentially the main point of this deck is that we want to have like 2 Ziliaxes that are now, 8/9s. So you have like 2 Ziliaxes that are 8/9s, they duplicate, so that's how you get 2 of them. And then they become 16 9s, and then you win the game that way. There's like so many ways to win the game. Even just Inventomatic itself, you plop that down, you give it a few magnetics with like Spider, Spy Ida, and stuff like that, and then on the next turn maybe you go into the scrap heap and you get Wind Fury and a few other things, you put them all in Inventomatic. Inventomatic becomes like this 12/12 Wind Fury, elusive Divine Shield, and then you attack the opponent's face 2 times, you win the game. Like, there's a lot of super fun and entertaining things you can do with this game. It's really skill testing because you really have to mulligan really well for what your opponent is doing, and you have to really focus in on what really matters at that moment, because if you prep the wrong target, you might just lose the game. Like, if you really don't need to pit stop, don't use your prep to pit stop. Even just like getting a pit stop on a Galvanizer might not just be worth it, because later on you can preparation a different card, such as Dubious Purchase, which is a lot better. But overall, this deck is easily more rogue playable. I know, funny, haha, it's a rogue deck. But if this was on a tier list, I would say this is more rogue playable, as well as my Kingsbane deck. Like, both of them are playable, both of them can easily get to Legend. Well, not easily, but they can. But that's the thing, is there's a lot more losing matchups for these type of classes than there are something like the Whispers of Kel'Thuzad deck. And the other deck is Shadow Priest. Originally, I did not run Parachute Brigand, and I think this is really the card that like separates this from being like a rogue playable deck to a tiered like 2 or 3. The fact that you can turn 1 summon Brain Masseuse into Parachute Brigand, into Patches, into next turn going Void Touch Attendant is insane. Like, the fact that you can do that just boggles the mind. Like, you can even potentially like Brain Masseuse into 2 Parachute Brigands into Patches, and then you draw the Void Touch Attendant and you play it. Oh my god, so much damage. This deck is so fun, very brain dead. This is a really fast deck. I would say that Imbue Mage and Shadow Priest are probably the most brain dead decks I've shown so far. End of the World Paladin is definitely close. But there is a point where you do have to make a decision between Ursol and Uther. With this deck and Imbue Mage, it's just play card, win game. And that's what this deck does really well. You just play all the cards in your hand, you take the minimal amount of trades you really need. Sometimes you will be forced to actually trade, which can be very sad, but we also have Deafen to be able to remove Taunt, so hopefully that helps you guys actually deal with a silly Dragon Druid. But other than that, Shadow Priest is definitely a viable deck, especially just run the Parachute Brigand. I know it doesn't sound like it makes much of a difference. It really makes a difference. And yeah, the final deck that I would really like to show off today, there's 2 actually. The first one is Call for Taxes. I know I haven't been really saying, hey, this deck beats this deck a lot. Call to Taxes, or Call to Arms as it's actually known. This one is one I really want to break down in particular for this video because of one card. Nerubar Web Lord. This card is golden, and it's for a reason. So this card came out all the way back in Naxxramas in 2016, I believe. It has not been changed at all, and it is still one of the best cards. This deck fully shuts down Imbue Mage, the OTK Paladin deck, as well as the Quest Warlock deck, as well as any Battlecry Shaman deck. Like, so many decks are immediately destroyed by you playing this on turn 1 or 2. Even if you Call to Arms and you get 2 of this, you're winning the game. Because the fact that you can just have this, and then you Call to Arms, so now you can Crusader Aura, and now it's a 3/5. Insane. There are so many times where I will summon this one card, Divine Brew it, and it will just be like, they concede. And I can see why. The fact that your opponent cannot imbue until turn 4 is really strong. They cannot do anything worthwhile for turn 5. They can. Turn 4 and 5, they finally can do something. And that's just summoning a 2/1 or a 2/3. By that time, you already have a board of 3 or 4 minions that are getting buffed by 2/1 every single turn. The fact that you can easily run a Tight-Lipped Witness that runs with your Call to Arms and your Order in the Court perfectly is amazing. There's so much synergy with the way that this deck works that it's just incredible. The showdowns with the Prismatic Beam is absolutely amazing. For Showdown into Prismatic Beam easily shuts down like a lot of aggressive decks like Shadow Priest, as well as the aforementioned like Mech Rogue. Like those decks get like absolutely shit on by that combo. So like there's so many things that this deck does, where if you know what deck your opponent is playing, because you know turn 1 it's usually pretty obvious, you are able to just have so much mental advantage over your opponent that when they see that Nerubar Weblord or they see that Showdown into Prismatic Beam, it's just GG. There is no winning this matchup anymore. And I love that about this deck. I hope that when you see all this footage of me like having a minion and then my opponent just says, wow, 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 concede, like, you really understand just how magical this deck is. Crab Rider being buffed back into its original state of 1/4 Wind Fury Rush, being able to work with Crusader Aura. Yet again, the fact that this card is still in the base set, so amazing that we can still have this golden just to tease our opponents. Rebuke, yet again, just being able to insulate your boards. I would even say you can run 1 Rebuke and 1 Cold Feet and just completely shut down your opponent for a turn is so amazing too. Sword of the Fallen with Redemption, oh my god. Redemptioning a Nerubar Weblord against like Imbue Mage or like a Warlock deck or something, priceless. It is priceless. Because on the next turn you Divine Brew it, and then it's just like, well, have fun killing it again. Oh wait, you won't. Obviously there's Dirty Rat, and Dirty Rat does contradict Nerubar Weblord, but the entire point of this is like your Millhouse Mana Stormy card, where you don't really want to play this, you kind of just want to have it come off of Call to Arms. But if you can play it, most of the time it's fine because you're playing it into an already established Crusader Aura, so whatever is summoned you can just kill with like a Crab Rider that's already like a 5/6. But yeah, I hope you'll have an absolute wonderful time playing this deck. This is easily probably number one deck I would recommend. But the number 2 deck, an absolute sleeper deck of the entire format, is the one, the only Elemental Mage. This deck was the only reason I was able to get Legend so quickly. I looked at it, I was looking at new decks because I needed something fresh, and I found this deck. This was running a 6 mana 7/6 minion. There was a legendary from like the Dark Beyond, and it said, Battle Cry, lose the game. And I said, no. I will not be so foolish as to run a 6 mana 7/6 Battle Cry, lose the game. So instead, I changed the deck into what you see before you, and from validation of other players playing this deck, I can easily say this is pretty much the best version of the deck. Ignite is a bit of a interesting kind of card, I personally think it is fairly interesting. The fact that potentially you can never fatigue and you can always deal damage is really nice. But furthermore, the main points is that people weren't running Shale Spider, they weren't running Flame Revenant, and these cards really just change everything. I don't know how much footage I have of this deck, so I don't know how many times I can just show, like, you know, moments that matter, but like there was a few mirrors even, and just Flame Revenant into Overflow Surger, easily one of the most game-winning plays you can do in this like deck. And I know it's so crazy, like, oh, I remember doing this in Standard, oh yeah. It's still crazy, like, so here's the entire point of this deck, right, is like turn 1, you know, maybe you go Elemental Evocation, you Confection Cyclone, you Aqua Activist into your Confection Cyclone, and then you play a 1 mana card, you have like 3 minions already. Next turn you play another one, and maybe you get a Firefly or something, or like you get something for later, you Shale Spider, you draw a card, and then, you know, at some point, your opponent has to clear your board, and if they clear your board, guess what comes back? The Overflow goddamn Surger. This deck's matchup chart is fairly good. You know that really obnoxious deck that kills like Cold Arm Paladin, it kills Libram Paladin, kills Mech Rogue, that really annoying Shaman deck that high rolls a 20 million mana investment cost into 4 mana? Yeah, this deck beat the crap out of that one. Because, yeah, they summon a big minion. You summon a Board of Death every turn for 3 turns straight. Like, yeah, if they can deal with it, that's good for them. Can they deal with a Glacial Shard on their minion and then, like, 6 4/3s? Probably not. And that's the thing that's so amazing about this deck, is that high roll deck really requires being able to stick a big minion on board and have that big minion do something. So if you freeze Neptulon, it can't do anything. You win the game. If you freeze the head of Glub and kill the body parts, it doesn't matter. Like, a lot of this deck really comes down to just pure aggression, pure face, pure winning the game. But the facts show that you can easily kill Shadow Mage, you can easily kill Cold Arms Paladin, potentially even, as long as they don't get the good old Shale. No, if they get the no bar, you're probably losing. But the main point of this deck is that it's really good, it's really aggressive, and it just has the ability to, unlike Shadow Priest, that doesn't have draw and doesn't have the ability to make a comeback, this deck can, and it's cheaper. This deck has literally 1 epic in it, and you don't even need to run it. You can just run something else that's a fire spell. It doesn't matter. I would recommend a cheap spell, but I'd actually recommend a little card called Lamplighter. It is a 4 mana 4/4 elemental. If you played an elemental last turn, deal 4 damage instead of Ignite. And if you do that, this deck is just rares and commons, mostly common. It has like very few rares. It has 2, 4, 6. It has 6 rares and 23 commons, or 24 if you want to remove Ignite. It is one of the cheapest possible decks you can play, and literally got me legend. So yeah, absolutely love this deck. Really hope we get an elemental boy from or lady or other for this. Like, I don't think the Cardslinger Sarad is just worth it, you know. But yeah, hope you all have an absolutely wonderful day with all these different decks. I will quickly go through the decks again. So, hey, if you're now coming into the video to try to see what the deck lists are, here you go. So essentially, I'm just going to quickly go through all the decks so you can like just look at them, pause the video, copy down the decks, and have a good time. I will say in order, I think Colder Arms, Elemental Mage, then Imbue Mage, then I would say probably end of the world, because although it can be teched against fairly easily, most people want to play aggressive decks, so this can beat that. But also Shadow Priest, really strong. Maybe Shadow Priest over the other one. This deck is just insanely strong. And then there is like Mech Rogue. Yeah, it's definitely a deck. Like, the thing about this deck is this feels more like a standard deck that you play in Wild, instead of a Wild deck that was born to be a Wild deck. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I could play this in like modern Hearthstone, and like people would complain about it, but it wouldn't be the best deck of the format. But with something like, you know, the Dragon Druid that's now in Wild, that's gonna win games. But yeah, hope you all had an absolutely wonderful time watching this video. This is the second time I've recorded it, so hopefully this time around it was a lot better. This is going to take a lot of editing to get this video done, and I should be posting this for me on the 22nd of April, or for you guys it should be in America and all that, it should be the 21st of April. So yeah, hope you all have an absolutely wonderful day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.